particular problem is going to be constructing a truth table in order to help us solve the problem. So the first thing that we're going to do is bring up the problem. Determine whether the argument is valid or invalid. You may compare the argument to a standard form or use a truth table. And then we see that we are given the argument. What we're going to do to start this is to go ahead and establish each part of the problem. This one is going to be P or Q. Then we're going to add to that P, therefore not Q. So we want to rewrite this as a statement. And this is the form that we come up with. Alright, we're going to put P or Q in parentheses. Then we're going to write the P. Then we're going to put the AND, because this is going to be a P or Q and P. Put brackets around that. And that's going to imply not Q. So let's go ahead and construct a truth table for this. This will be the best, I think, the easiest way for us to go ahead and generate the answer. So we'll establish the first column, which will be P, and we'll write it as true, true, false, false. We'll establish the second column, Q, and write it as true, false, true, false. So now we can combine P and Q either as an and or as an or. And that's what we're going to do with P or Q. If P is true and Q is true, then P or Q will be true. If P is true, Q is false, then P or Q will be also true. If P is false, Q is true, P or Q will be true. And if P and Q are both false, then P or Q will be false. Our next column, I'm going to rewrite the P column, true, true, false, false. And now we're going to establish the P or Q and P. And if P or Q is true and P is true, then P or Q and P will be true. And you can see that for each one of these, since this right here is going to be true and this one's going to be true, we'll have true here. This will be true here. This will be false here. This has to be false. And if both of them are false, then this one will be a false. So our next column is going to be taking the AND, which we have just highlighted in the salmon color, and then we're going to establish a not Q column. If Q is true, then not Q will be false, and we'll see that right here. And then you can get the rest of these. If Q is false, then not Q will be true. If Q is true, not Q will be false, and if Q is false, not Q will be true. And what we're going to do for this particular problem is compare this. This is true, and this is false. But what we want to do is we want to look at the fact that we're using our implies. So if the first part, P or Q and P, is true, and that implies not Q is false, that means that we're looking at a false. And we can see that for each one of these. If we are looking at true right here, and we are looking at true right here, the implies is going to be true. If this is going to be false, and this one is false, false implies false will be true. If this one is false, and this one is true, we have false implies true, which is also true. So now you'll note that the only one in the column that is false is right here, because we have true implies false, and that is always a falsehood. So now that we have done this, we know that since all four are not true, this is an invalid argument.